front. We're joined by Tim Akinnusi, who's a property expert and CEO of MortgageMarket. Tim, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm sure, like many of our listeners, you looked at those GDP numbers, you've read the headlines. I mean, somebody's working in the property market and you have to sound positive, I'm sure, for somebody, who is in that space. But what did you make of those figures?
Yeah, I think for the most part of it, those figures were not anything surprising. I mean, we always knew that the economy was going to contract. The question was by how much. I guess we know now the number is just over 50%. And I guess the more concerning thing is where to from here. What are the other major lead indicators that we're going to see that will continue to show us that the economy is hemorrhaging, that jobs are going to be a big challenge going forward, and as a result of that, everything else that's connected to the incomes that people need to earn to be able to spend is going to suffer as a result of that. So if we look specifically now, if we're talking about the property sector, which is widely understood that it tracks the economy, so a weak economy doesn't do well for long-term investment in property because people just aren't confident about their income prospects. It means that typically you should be seeing less people go into the market for new homes or to buy new property. But the strange thing has been that in the last couple of months, obviously there's been this pent-up demand for property, and there has been a boom. I mean, we've seen home loan advances to the tune of about 35% up year on year as a result of the pent-up demand that's come from being under lockdown and people not being able to buy homes, coupled with the fact that sentiment around property has improved dramatically. I mean, because we spent so many hours indoors. And then as well, we've had this huge reduction in the interest rates, which has made it favorable for people to buy. So there's all of these positive vibes and positive, real indicators that people should be buying homes. However, it's hard to ignore the impact of loss of income and massive pay cuts that have happened in the past couple of months, which has to come to bear at some point in time. And I suppose we're starting to see that rear its head now.
In terms of sustainability on that front, I mean, is it sustainable at this stage? Because, I mean, I would assume that interest rates won't stay too long for a very long, well, rather too low for a very long time.
Yeah, well, the function of how long interest rates stay low is also linked to the inflation question. If inflation continues to be controlled and if the SARB continues to believe that we need to keep interest rates low to lower the cost of debt and to stimulate the economy, then interest rates will stay low until the economy fully recovers. But like I said, there is it's a lot complicated because when you add in the inflationary effects of that might then push a different conversation from the SARB. And of course, customers have always asked us as a business to say, should I actually be taking out a home loan now? And is this rate going to be sustained? And is it going to shoot back up, which will impact on my affordability? And it's very difficult to answer that question. One has to sort of default to what we're seeing as the factors that influence inflation as well as the factors that influence a low interest rate environment. So I guess the short answer is interest rates are going to remain low for the foreseeable future. In fact, we think that another rate cut might be on the cards in the coming months because there's just no way to be increasing rates with the economy on its knees at the moment.
Yeah. I think one of the other things people might be looking out for, which might also be another shocker, is the second quarter unemployment numbers that are, supposed to come out, I think, later around this month. Taking that into account, I mean, what your outlook for the property industry going into probably next year, mid-next year, when things are starting to get back to a new normality?
So my response to that would be one has to have a sector-by-sector view on it. So I always believe at this stage, affluent property, that segment of the market is going to continue to suffer. just because holiday homes and investment homes and all of these other types of properties that have low economic value, they're always going to be suffering in a market like this, especially under a pandemic. But if you look further down in the more middle markets to affordable housing, the demand has always been largely strong in those sectors. So we'll continue to see these sectors grow, especially when we know that a lot of people will potentially not be able to afford houses, so they'll need to rent in the time being. But of course, obviously, that has its own set of complications, because if you're renting, you're still expected to keep up on your repayments of your rental. So we think that there's going to be a shock to the system around landlords having to make some compromises with their tenants. But we also believe that the demand is just so strong. So to be able to replace your investment property as a landlord with a new tenant is not going to struggle. And I just think overall we've got to look at this market at a sector-by-sector view, which says that firstly, the houses that are likely to be resilient are primary housing with a strong economic utility on those houses, i.e. it's a family that's going to use it to live in primarily, to work from primarily, to do all the things that they've been doing in the past couple of months under lockdown. So they will get the most amount of utility from a house, and therefore they'll be much more committed to paying their bond or paying their rental on those types of property.
All right, Tim, thank you so much for your time this evening. That's Tim Akinnusi, who's a property expert and CEO of MortgageMarket.
Kaya Biz with Gugulethu Mfuphi from 6 to 7 p.m. on KayaFM 95.9. Rewinding Kaya FM on FM Rewind. Visit kayafm.co.za for more.